Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SHC Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Sisk, and today we'll be featuring a Senior Vice President in Banking, Santi Tefel. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how Santi entered into banking, what Little Havana at SHC means, and advice to upcoming graduates. Mr. Santi Tefel.
Hello. Back in the hill.
It's so nice to meet you and glad that you're back on the hill.
Same here. Good to meet you too, Ethan.
What brings you back on the hill?
Homecoming on the hill. Homecoming on the hill. I also serve as a trustee on the board of directors. So I find myself back on campus a little more frequent than I used to. But it's been a great pleasure to serve on the board of directors as a trustee, and it's kind of re-energized my my love for Spring Hill College, which is really nice. Every time I come on campus, I kind of get like butterflies, you know? So,
what are some of the duties of people on the board?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we there's a big difference. People get this perception of the roles and responsibilities of governance as a trustee. So really our job is to look at the big picture. You know, we're not hiring people, we're not telling the president what to do. We're kind of just oversight and making sure that everything is running smoothly as it should be. But it's kind of like someone's watching your back, watching your six. So, but yeah, the responsibilities to govern and help the school make decisions and make sure everything is kind of moving along as it should be.
So you're the board's correspondent to the president?
Well, the way it kind of works is that's a good question. So the president runs a school, right? And really the board works with the president to achieve the goals that cabinet, wants to do. And then, of course, our job is to have oversight on them to make sure they're doing their job.
Yeah. So it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. You got it.
How many total members are there?
I should know this, but I don't. I want to say there's probably around 21 or so. And our board has got great diversity in terms of makeup of male and female, ethnicity, age range. We've got a really good board that is a great representation of the school and the mission of the Jesuits. So
that's great.
Yeah.
What brought you to Spring Hill as a student?
Oh, great question. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I attended a all-boy Jesuit preparatory school called the Belen Jesuit. And and I want to say my first introduction to Spring Hill was I came here one summer. I think I was like a junior in high school or like a sophomore. And Spring Hill, I don't know if they still do it today, but they used to put on these summer retreats, spiritual retreats.
Who comes to them?
Kids from all over the country.
High schoolers?
Yes.
I think so. I remember at the end of the last school year, they were putting cleaning it up and doing all types of stuff. So
yeah, so I came one summer, and we came with, at that time it was, the name of the priest was Brother Willie. Now it's Father Willie. He's the president of Belen Jesuit. And he brought us, we came here, we were here for a couple days. We participated in this spiritual retreat and got to see the campus. And the campus is so beautiful, And then he took us to New Orleans, and we visited Loyola. And we drove up here from Miami. Can you imagine being on a bus with like 13 young men that I'm sure we smelled like crap, and it was like a road trip. But the purpose was to come here, go to the retreat, and learn about Spring Hill, learn to grow our spirituality, and that was my first introduction. And
so was the 13 just part of your class?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we had a class at Belen that was called peer ministry, and a lot of the students that came to that retreat were from that peer ministry class.
Gotcha.
So, but at that time, Spring Hill was very popular among the Catholic high schools in Miami and South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So there was quite a few students that were coming up from Miami to Spring Hill, and I just jumped on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with, I want to say it was like 8 to 10 guys from my class.
From high school class?
Yeah, and they put us all in Tulin. They put us on the first floor, and it wasn't like a week that they named it Little Havana. They were like, I told the guys, because a lot of my friends that came up from Miami, from Belen, they're Cuban American, they're first or second generation Cuban American. And I told them, because you automatically assume if you're from Miami and you're Hispanic, that you're Cuban. Mm-hmm. There's such a large Cuban population in Miami. I told these guys, I'm born and raised in Mexico City. I'm Mexican American. And I told these guys, hey, man, we're going to Mobile, Alabama. Like, you guys need to remember, like, you're not going to be Cuban anymore. You're like, we're going to transition to, like, everybody's going to think we're Mexican now,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it wasn't until like a week and they named Tulin Hall Little Havana.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What age did you move from Mexico to Miami?
We moved to Miami in 1991. I was about like 9 years old, I think. I remember, yeah.
How was Mexico City from what you remember?
Oh, man, Mexico City is one of the biggest cities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Population, 20 million plus. You think you've been in traffic. You haven't been in traffic. You have not been in traffic. Like, Mexico City has traffic.
Yeah.
Everything else is like a minor delay. It's a huge city. I had the privilege of going back a lot. We would spend the whole summers there. I mean, I've got 2 kids now, Ethan, and like I beg my parents to like watch them for a couple of days. I'm like, hey, can you watch the kids for a couple of days? Like, the lady and I would like to go on a vacation. And they're like, we can watch them, but just for a little bit. And I told my mom the other day, I was like, you used to send us to Mexico for 3 months the entire summer, and you're complaining about taking care of my kids for a couple of days? Like, your parents would take care of us for 3 months, in the summers. Yeah, all my cousins are there. I've got 21 cousins, and
wow,
and the big close family, and Mexico City is a huge city.
That's what I've heard. They've got the largest university too.
Yeah.
Probably like 100,000 population.
Yeah. I'll tell you this story. So when I was growing up in Mexico City and we'd be there in the summers, we'd watch soccer with my grandfather, and we'd watch the bullfights.
Those are
big
fierce.
Tradition. Mexico City's got one of the biggest plazas in the world for bullfighting. Mm-hmm. It's right next to a stadium. You can see the aerial, how big the plaza is. And whenever the matador does something really nice, the crowd says, "Ole!" So I was a freshman here, and I know nothing about the South. Completely inept of Southern culture. I've been sheltered in Miami. Mm-hmm. And I see this girl, and she's got this hat, and it says "Ole" on it. I'm like, oh my God. They're so cultured here in the South. I mean, this girl over here has got a bullfighting hat. Mm-hmm. So I go and I ask her. I'm like, hey, lady, miss, where did you get this Ole hat? And she looks at me. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, your hat, it says Ole. She goes, son, that's Ole Miss, University of Mississippi. I'm like, holy cow, we are in a different world here. You know, that was my introduction to the South. All right.
Yeah.
I knew nothing.
That's too funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are your parents still in Miami?
My parents are in Miami. My brothers are in Miami. I've got an older brother. He used to love to come visit Spring Hill. See, he didn't have the collegiate experience. He stayed home. He went to a fine art school in Miami, lived at home, and when he would come visit, he was like, "Oh my God, this is college. This is the college experience." Mm-hmm. My older brother is a phenomenal individual. One of my best friends. He's so proud of him. He is, he's a senior producer, graphic designer for Telemundo, ABC. So basically everything you see on promotions for internal TV shows and all that, he's in charge of all of it.
That's awesome.
He's an extremely creative artist. And my younger brother is 13, 12 years younger than me. And he's currently in law school down in Miami. So I'm really proud of him, too. He attended Sewanee, which is very similar to Spring Hill. Mm-hmm. Played tennis there, and now he's in St. Thomas University Law School. Yeah.
Right on.
Great golfer. He's a great golfer,
yeah.
The little guy, Mikey Tefel. Great golfer.
Do you like to golf?
Oh, I played tennis here when I was here in Spring Hill, and unfortunately, I've had wrist issues. I've had surgeries on my wrist, and I can't play tennis anymore the way I used to. And so I've picked up golf. It's pretty much the only thing that I can do that doesn't really hurt my wrist. So I've picked up golf, and that's kind of been my new vice.
Yeah. I'm making a pledge to get into it before this year's over. Having a golf course at arm's reach.
Take it. When I was here, every chance we could get, we'd get the bag and just walk on the golf course. It was awesome. Also, what we used to do, whenever the baseball team played, it would light up one of the holes here. I can't remember. I think it's 14. There's a downhill where the apartments are. Yeah. We used to go to 100 yards from the pin, and we used to just hit balls during the baseball games. It was awesome. It was awesome.
One of the beauties of Spring Hill.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Let's talk career path and banking.
Yeah, so here I did, when I was here at the Hill, I did the accelerated 2 degrees. I did economics and finance, and I had a bunch of credits that I earned coming in here because we took AP Spanish back in Belen. So we came over, and they said, "Hey, you guys can get these credits, but you have to take this test, this Spanish test." So we take the test. Of course, we ace it. And they're like, "Okay, great. You get these credits. What classes would you like to take in place of the language?" Because, there's a language requirement here, theology and language. And, we kind of was like my buddies, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, "No, we're going to take Spanish." And they were like, No, you don't have to take Spanish. We're like, "We know, but we want to take it." It was an easy A. Yeah. I remember going to the class and meeting the Spanish teacher. I can't remember her name, and then there was a father Jesuit. I can't remember his name either. That was one of the teachers. But we got to that class, and it was pretty evident that we were going to be the teachers in that class. So it's like we got in, and they were like, "All right, students, I want you to try your best this first day. Tell us your name, where you're from, and what's your favorite food." First guy gets up and he's like, "Hola, I am Josoy Todd Smith. I am from Texas. Tejas. Y mi favorite comida is pizza." And like the teacher was like, "Oh my God, this guy, that was just wonderful, that was great." And I was like, wow, I just became the professor of this class. I mean, I like when I was out, I was like, man, I'm gonna blow these people away. I'm like, me llamo Santiago Tefel Tejo Reyes Moreira, and everybody's like, wow, Santi, that was wonderful. You are the new teacher. You know, it was like that was taking Spanish here at Spring Hill. You know, no, obviously I'm exaggerating. We have a great language program, but definitely easy A. So I share that with you because we had these. I came in with like all these extra credits, and when I would go back in the summers, I would take in the community college, Miami-Dade Community College, all the like core classes to just get them out of the way, so that when I came back to campus, I would be focusing on the higher ed classes for my major.
Smart.
So I graduated with 2 degrees. I was a student athlete. I was involved with SGA. I was chairman of the campus programming board when I was a junior, captain of the tennis team my senior year, and graduated with 2 degrees in 4 years. So not bragging, but
That's a busy 4 years.
in your face, Ethan. Let's see you do that.
I'm trying. I still got some time left.
There you go. Attaboy. No, I'm just teasing. But I use that to my advantage, and I share that because, you know, when you're here, you don't want to be like failing history. You know, you don't want to be failing biology. You know, you want to get those out of the way as fast as you can, so you can concentrate on the classes that are your major. And, you know, one of the greatest advantages here at Spring Hill is, you know, the teacher to student ratio. You know, we had upper class, I can't remember what the jargon is, but like, you know, towards the end of your degree, the core class, no, they're not core classes, but like the
ones for your major specific?
The major specific classes. I mean, we had some where higher level, 400, 500 level classes with Dr. James, where you had 15 people in the class. You know, I had friends that were taking managerial economics at University of Florida, and they had 500 people in the classroom, and they never saw the professor. And the difference here, you know, I remember I was late to class. I skipped class one day, Dr. James' class, because we went on a tennis tournament. We got back late. I was like, man, I slept in. And we were so tight with Dr. James. We'd go work out together in the gym. And he came to my dorm, and he was like, why did you miss class? And I was like, I promise I will never do it again, you know? And like, that's the relationship that you build here at the Hill with the professors. Is you can't do it anywhere else.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I kind of knew I wanted to get into banking because, you know, I had done, as I shared with you, you know, previously to this podcast, I worked at a law firm. I worked at all these different places during the summers to kind of get idea of where I wanted to land. And I thought banking was where I wanted to be. I knew I liked the money. I knew I had some type of an entrepreneurial spirit. So, you know, I said, hey, but banking is sounds good. And my dad had some friends in banking, and they kind of helped me get established with an internship, and I really liked it. And that internship, I got to see all the different departments of the bank. And, you know, right out of college, I started working for a startup bank in Miami. It was called Great Florida Bank. And they were a fairly new bank. They were about $1 billion in assets.
So a startup bank, how does that form? How does a bank form?
Well, you just like any other business, man, you raise money, you raise capital from investors, whether they're institutional investors, meaning, you know, investment banks, maybe like Goldman Sachs, KBW, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Alliance Bernstein, all these investment banks, you know, that they'll help you raise capital to start the bank. But more important than that, you got to get a charter. Your state where you're opening up the bank, they have to issue you a charter to start a bank. They have to approve it. So, you know, back then when I started working for Great Florida Bank, all I remember was they were fairly new. They were a fairly new bank. I believe they had gotten a charter approved in Florida. to start the bank. They had raised money to start the bank, and they were about to go public. And when I got out of college, it was 2007. And if we all remember history, around 2008, the residential mortgage market collapsed, the great banking crisis of 2008, 2009. And what happened was all the banks stopped hiring people. A lot of banks went under. A lot of financial firms went under. A lot of people had to foreclose on their homes, forfeit their mortgages. And I was lucky enough to have gotten out of college just a little bit before that happened to get a job. Some of my friends that kind of waited to get a job after they graduated, they couldn't find a job. Mm-hmm. Nobody was hiring. We were in a recession. And a lot of those guys and girls, they went back to get their graduate degrees. And I was lucky enough that I had landed a job. And I was working for Great Florida Bank, like low entry level, like teller level. And it's a great way to start because you learn deposits and credits and how the ledgers work and how the bank, you get the deposits, how they're scanned into the Federal Reserve, how they're processed, the money in the vault, how to count it, how to balance. And I remember my girlfriend at that time was my wife now, Hace Tefel. And she was living in Nashville. We were trying to get her to move to Miami. Mm-hmm. Couldn't find a job.
But you ended up losing that battle because now you live in Nashville.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, her dad, there was no way her dad, Bill Hans, if you ever listen to this podcast, screw you, man. I could be in Miami right now, living it up, but now I'm in Nashville because you would not let your daughter move to Miami. No, but he's a great guy. He was not going to have it. He was like, dude, if you want to court my daughter, you got to come to Nashville. And he was great. I mean, he's a big mentor of mine. He was former, he's a journalist at heart. He covered music for years. Mm-hmm. He was the editor of the paper. He started the communication public relations department for Vanderbilt Medical Center. He's a big deal. And he was up for a Pulitzer in 1978 for uncovering a murder in Tennessee at a prison. He was one of the only journalists that was allowed during Elvis's death. Like, his claim of fame is the story about Elvis that went out.
That was his story?
Nationally was his story. Like, he was the guy that put it out. Like, he was friends with like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, all the Sinatra, all those guys. He covered. You go to their house and he's got
frames,
just a wall of black and white pictures of him and like all the famous musicians. He was it, man. If you wanted a review in the music world, they came from Bill Hans. And, funny story about him. He's at Elvis's funeral in Graceland. And I don't know if it was open casket or not, but they're in line to say, goodbye to Elvis. And the lady in front of him faints. She's like, oh, when she saw him and she fainted. It's huge commotion. And he stepped to the side, went to the casket, and Elvis had some, I don't know if the roses were on the casket or wherever they were. And he grabbed the rose from the casket and he stole them. From Elvis Presley.
I thought you were going to say he gave the roses to the lady.
No, he still has the rose today, like in a glass.
Oh, no way.
In a glass casing. I think it was on Elvis's chest when he was dead. I don't know if it was like on the casket or on Elvis. We don't know, but
I'm gonna see that on Pawn Stars.
Oh man, that's what I'm telling him. I was like, we need to sell this. Like, you are a credited journalist. Like, once you die, we're screwed. No one's gonna believe us.
Yeah.
We got to sell this before you croak. No, but he takes a lot of pride in this memorabilia. But so
that's awesome.
Man, I feel like I'm doing a Trump here because Trump, like, he rambles, but he calls it weaving.
Man, I'm engaged.
We're weaving here. So back to Anna in Nashville after college. So her dad, he's got all these friends, and he said, hey, I've got one of my friends is the president of Bank of America. One of my other friends is the president of this bank called First Bank. And one of my friends, his name's Ron Samuels, he's starting a bank called Avenue Bank. You need to come talk to them. So around September, October of 2007, I go to Nashville and I meet with these guys, with these presidents. And I had realized that Avenue Bank was another startup bank. They had raised about $75 million of capital. And it was the largest bank raise for a startup bank in Nashville at that time. And what they ended up doing is they bought another bank to get that charter so they wouldn't have to apply for it. So it's pretty smart. So they got off the ground running fast. Yeah. And Avenue Bank was so new that they didn't really have enough time to get into any trouble with any bad loans because they were brand new. So I met with all these people, great banks, great friends of my father-in-law. And, one bank, they couldn't even pronounce my name. So I was like, this is not going to work. The other bank was so big. I was like, man, I'm going to get lost here. And then I interviewed with Avenue Bank, and I was like, man, these people have energy, a lot of young people. Everything is brand new. This seems like a great opportunity. So I take a job there, and I moved to Nashville. And really what I learned there, Ethan, was sometimes, man, to be successful, you've got to get out of your element. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? I could have easily stayed in Miami, bilingual, a lot of friends there, a lot of connection. I went to a legacy prep school there. The who's who of Miami are from that school. And I probably would have been successful there. But leaving Miami was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like coming to Spring Hill, getting out of Miami, meeting all these people from all over the country, being thrown into a different culture of the South, and moving to Nashville. I mean, I would have never, if it wasn't for Spring Hill, I would never be in Nashville. I would have never met my wife. I've never met my wife. Dude, I knew I had the hots for my wife. All right, I'll never forget this. Freshman year, she was in the soccer team. We were playing University of Mobile. We were losing 1-0. I was in the tennis team, friends with the tennis guys. They were all South American. The majority of them were South American, and they were friends with the girls on the soccer team. So we go. They're like, "Hey, let's go to the girls' game." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And they were losing 1-0, halftime. They put Anna in. And it wasn't, I'll never forget this. Look at this. Here's the big guy calling me, Bill Hands. He's like, where are you? Call me back. Soccer game, they put Anna in, halftime. It wasn't 30 seconds, 45 seconds of the game. Some girl centers the ball. She freaking jumps in the air, freaking heads the ball in, boom, scores a goal with a header. We're at the corner kick, hanging out. She scores the goal, runs, slides on her knees. Everybody's like jumping on her, tying the game, and I was like a rooster. I was like, who is this girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, like from California? That's how dumb I was. I thought every blonde was from California, and they're like, no, that girl's from Tennessee. I was like, oh, that's good. They have blondes in Tennessee. I didn't know that. But that's how she was a tremendous athlete, and she runs the gyms. She started Studio Novo. We started it together. So that's her baby, and she's been extremely successful at it. And she didn't start there. Her career didn't start there. It took her different phases to get there, to figure out what she wanted to do. So, you got to be patient. It's not going to come overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But so I moved to Nashville, start working for Avenue Bank, and that's where everything started changing. And then the crisis hit. Things got cut back a little bit, but we survived it. And next thing we know, we're doing really well. We're profitable bank. We grow the bank $1 billion in assets. We become sizable. We go public. Everybody's making a little bit of money in the stock market. And then next thing you know, we're merging with the best bank in town, Pinnacle Bank. And that's where I am today. And it's been, my career at Pinnacle Bank has been incredible. It's one of the best employers. It's one of the best banks in the country. They take care of their employees. It's got a great culture, great reputation. We've got the number 1 market share in Nashville, number 2 market share in the state of Tennessee. We're, I think, like the 23rd largest bank in the country. And that was a bank that also got started from scratch. Mm-hmm. We've got tremendous leadership. There's there's not lots of layers of management, so there's no silos. It's just a great place to work for, man, and a great place where they empower the bankers to take care of their clients.
Yeah.
And that's where I've been ever since.
That's great.
So, if you think about it, I've only really worked for one place, mm-hmm. Which is extremely rare.
Mm-hmm. Especially in this day and age.
Oh, yeah, man. I've got friends that, they've worked at 10 different companies. I mean, I feel like I'm a rare bird having only really worked. Mm-hmm. Granted, it was, the mergers, transitions, got to, be able to adapt and mm-hmm. to different environments. But, they count my years from Avenue Bank, and I've been at Pinnacle Bank for 16 years, and I'm 39 years old. That's a rare thing, But yeah, that's how I got to Nashville.
Nice.
Long answer, huh?
Yeah, but I got it. Well, we got to wrap it up shortly because Nick's got class and you got to get to Pensacola.
That's true. But Nick, how we doing over there?
Doing excellent.
That's great.
Well, what advice would you give to students getting ready to graduate?
Absolutely, man. This is a great question. Have a resume. And then, don't get so worked up with getting a job in something that, that you're really not super passionate about. You gotta start somewhere, mm-hmm. right? And I think there's a lot of skill sets in entry-level jobs that you can learn that translate to many different industries. I'll give you an example. My wife started her career in philanthropy. She worked for a high donor society at Vanderbilt Medical Center called the Campy Robinson Society. So she took care of their board members. They put on events. They fundraised. And then from there, she went to work for the YWCA, and she was head of events there. And then from there, she decides, well, I'm going to start a gym, Mm-hmm. And if you think, how do you go from like fundraising philanthropy to like opening up a business? Well, there's a lot of skills she learned in terms of how to develop relationships, how to respond to clients, how to take care of a professional workplace, There's a lot of skills she learned that translated, and now she's an extremely successful entrepreneur mm-hmm. with an extremely reputable business, and she's doing extremely well. And no one, you might have never thought that somebody that started in philanthropy would be a small business owner and would be extremely successful at it. So sometimes the start, it may feel like it's not the path you want to go towards. It's not going to take you to that path you seek. But I promise you, you got to have work ethic, and you got to have the patience to develop those skills you need early on to transition maybe to something else. Every time a door closes, another one opens. Mm-hmm. So, I worked at Avenue, and I was pretty much like a teller or concierge banker for 3 years before I got moved to private banking. Man, those first 3 years, I would go home so tired every day, exhausted, all this work we would do. And if I hadn't done that for that long and learned the work ethic on how to run a general bank, the retail bank, there's no way I could do the job I do today without that background. You know, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sounds good. I'll take it all to heart. I think patience is really the biggest thing I need to emulate for the early career search. You know, I want to have it all now and find
man.
it.
It takes time. And remember, you want to identify. I know you like. Everybody's like, "Oh, what career am I going to choose?" But the career doesn't start, entry level. You'll develop your career throughout the years, but you gotta start somewhere, right? And you will, and give it time. When I started as a teller, I was like, man, this is not for me. But I was patient. I was like, I gotta learn this stuff. I gotta start at the bottom because everyone starts at the bottom, and I'm, don't be afraid. And also, it's so much easier to get a job when you're employed.
True.
Other than when you're not employed.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. That's
Gotcha.
a big thing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Santi.
Absolutely, Ethan, my man.
Yes, sir. I would like to personally thank everyone who tuned into this episode of the SHC Division of Business podcast. Our aim is to give young professionals insight into their desired field or potential job of choice. If you gain anything from this, or have any compassion whatsoever, please share with someone you see fit.